Good evening. I'm Nima Rajan, and this is Forum Daily for Wednesday, May 4th. We begin with an update on the escalating Russian invasion in Ukraine. Russian forces are now targeting supply lines for foreign weapons in the West, and they are intensifying an offensive in the East using sea and air-launched guided missiles to destroy electric power facilities at 5 railway stations. The governor of the eastern Donetsk region says Russian attacks left 21 dead on Tuesday. This is the highest number of known fatalities since April 8th, when a missile attack on a railway station killed at least 59 people. The Russian military says its artillery and aircraft also hit troop strongholds and fuel and ammunition depots. The recent flurry of attacks comes as Russia prepares to celebrate Victory Day on May 9th, marking the defeat of Nazi Germany. Well, more than 24 countries have already reopened their diplomatic missions in Ukraine, but Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly says she's still looking at when Canada's ambassador can return. Ottawa closed the embassy in Kyiv and relocated diplomatic staff to Lviv in February, shortly before Russia's invasion. They are now working out of Poland. Ms. Joly says Ambassador Larisa Galadza will return to the country as soon as it's safe. All right, moving to the discussion of women's rights and abortion, which was ignited by a leaked U.S. Supreme Court draft opinion. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says his government wants to ensure a woman's right to a safe and legal abortion will be permanently protected in Canada. Abortion was decriminalized by a 1988 Supreme Court decision, but no bill was ever passed in Parliament enshrining that right into law. Mr. Trudeau has ordered 2 cabinet ministers to review existing laws to make sure the rights of women are protected now and in the future. The leaked document suggests that the United States Supreme Court is poised to strike down the right to legal abortions nationwide. Meanwhile, federal Conservative leadership candidates are stating their position on abortion. Ontario MP Leslyn Lewis isn't commenting on the draft decision because it isn't final. Patrick Brown says abortion in Canada should be safe, legal, and, in his personal opinion, rare. Scott Aitchison released a video voicing his support for a woman's right to choose. Jean Charest supports abortion rights. Robin Baber says he supports diversity of opinion within the party. And Pierre Poilievre says he would not introduce or pass any laws restricting abortion. In Quebec, mask mandates for indoor public spaces will end in another 10 days. However, masks will still be mandatory on public transit and in healthcare facilities. Quebec will be the last province to lift the mandate. Prince Edward Island plans to lift its health order on Friday. Turning to Manitoba now, where 24 municipalities have declared states of local emergency because of flooding. The latest ones include the rural municipalities of Coldwell, Emerson Franklin, and McDonald. Several First Nations communities, including Peguis, have also declared local emergencies. Flooding has also forced the closure of Highway 75 on the south side of Morris. This comes nearly a week after the highway was closed on the north side of town. Ontario's political party leaders are kicking off the election campaign by battling about a highway proposed for the Greater Toronto Area. Highway 413 is expected to serve areas like Vaughan and Brampton. Progressive Conservative leader Doug Ford reiterated his pledge to build the highway while campaigning in Brampton today. He said it will ease gridlock and save commuters time. But the Liberals and NDP, who both oppose the project, say it would do neither of those things and are promising to cancel it. All right, well, meantime, the Toronto real estate market cooled off in April. The Toronto Regional Real Estate Board reports sales dropped by about 41% from last year and 27% from March. The board believes home buyers are taking a break from the market as interest rates climb and reduce their buying power. April's average home price dipped to more than $1.2 million. This is down from about $1.3 million in March. Canadian Jeopardy super champ Mateo Roach is the lone holder of the 5th longest winning streak in the TV quiz show's history. The 23-year-old Halifax native and Toronto tutor logged her 21st win in Tuesday's episode. Now that lifts her from her short stint tied for 5th place with 20-time champ Julia Collins. Ms. Roach has earned the 6th highest money tally of any contestant in regular season play at over $506,000 US. We'll be right back after the break with a look at mental health and a new crisis phone line in Newfoundland and Labrador. We'll be speaking with Ms. Kimberly Dawson, the CEO of the Canadian Mental Health Association in Newfoundland and Labrador. She's going to fill us in on the new 811 phone line and mental health amid CMHA's Mental Health Week. And of course, after that, we'll have more news from around the world, so stay with us. We'll be right back. This week, Newfoundland and Labrador announced that mental health care services traditionally offered through the province's mental health crisis phone line will now be provided by calling 811. People needing urgent support for mental health or addictions needs can call the 811 health line to speak with a registered nurse. The province says switching to 811 gives residents an easier number to remember when they need help. During this transition, calls to the old mental health crisis line will be forwarded automatically to 811. Joining us now to tell us more about this new 811 hotline is Ms. Kimberly Dawson, CEO of CMHA, Newfoundland and Labrador. Ma'am, welcome to Forum Daily.
Thank you very much, Neva. It's nice to be here.
So what services or support does this 811 hotline provide to those in Newfoundland and Labrador?
It really means that those who are in need of crisis response or mental health and addiction support can now dial a 3-letter number, 811, day or night, and speak with a registered nurse trained in crisis intervention. So no one has to remember how to call a number, look up a 188 number, or even have to navigate a system. It's just, you can just call 811 right now.
And what types of services does this 811 number provide to residents in the area?
Any mental health or addiction support, also health support. So if you're in you need a crisis intervention or you need to talk to a registered nurse, you can dial 811 and someone's there to support you right away.
All right, and we are on the tail end of this pandemic after over 2 years of it. How has this pandemic impacted the need for mental health supports in Newfoundland and Labrador in particular?
I think a lot of people that don't normally struggle with their mental health are really struggling right now. It's the stress of living, working, and going to school in a COVID world. People are struggling with isolation, anxiety, loneliness, the unknown. They just don't have the normal social supports that you usually have, people around you to talk to and to share your struggles with. And I think here in Newfoundland and Labrador, the increased cost of living has been hard on people. People are struggling to make ends meet. The cost of gas, electricity, food is all going up, and that's very difficult on your mental health. We also have a shortage of housing and shelter beds are at capacity. I think most Canadians are emotionally overwhelmed and exhausted. You asked about the pandemic, and I just think that it's made an increased demand for housing, increased demand on our mental health and addiction services. We have long wait lists, and people are just struggling to keep up with the demand.
Some concerning information there, ma'am. Now, in many cases, the needs of people in the East or on the East Coast can differ significantly from those in other regions. So how do the specific needs of people in Newfoundland and Labrador differ from those in other provinces or territories?
Well, right now we have a lot of people living in rural Newfoundland and Labrador, so virtual services are good, but that can also prove to be a barrier if you don't have access to the internet and if technology or electronic devices or data plans are out of your budget. You also have to have reliable housing and something to support that connectivity. So virtual services are good if you have the capability to use them. And I think during the pandemic, it's been truly hard on seniors and people with low income. Here in Newfoundland and Labrador, we have a long waiting list for psychologists. We have a shortage of doctors. That can make it difficult when people are struggling to get a mental health diagnosis and also getting the right medication and therapy.
Well, taking all of that into consideration, what other mental health resources are available for those living in Newfoundland and Labrador?
Well, right now we have a French and an English warm line that you can call through LifeWise. They formerly used to be Channel. We also have a Doorways program, which is a drop-in counseling service available throughout Newfoundland and Labrador, also available in rural Newfoundland and Labrador. We have online resources, Bridge the Gap, which is a tool for adults and youth. And we have Wellness Together Canada, which is the mental health help online program through the Government of Canada that we encourage people to access.
Just about a minute left here, Ms. Dawson, but it is Mental Health Week in Canada, so let's end this interview with a message. What advice would you give to those who maybe don't know where to start when it comes to taking care of their mental health?
It's an excellent question. Well, I think this year's theme is really good. It's a good place to start with empathy. We can all listen a little bit more and understand when something is coming, where someone's coming from. And it's okay to admit that you're not okay. And if you are struggling with your own mental health, know that you're not alone and that there are plenty of resources available to support you. Talk to your doctor or someone you trust and share what you're feeling and what you're going through. We all have mental health, and we really need to practice self-care and be gentle with one another and with ourselves. And let's be real and practice empathy in our daily lives, not just this week, but all year round.
All right, Ms. Dawson, thank you again for joining us today on Forum Daily.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
Stay with us. Coming up after the break, of course, more news from around the world, so stay tuned. Today is International Star Wars Day, a day to celebrate a galaxy far, far away and everything relating to the iconic George Lucas franchise. In honor of May the 4th, Disney is releasing a new Obi-Wan comic today, ahead of the Obi-Wan series dropping later this month on Disney+. This along with some new Star Wars Lego sets. In addition to that, a new documentary will soon be released titled Galaxy Built on Hope. It is directed by Roger Christian, set decorator for the first Star Wars film and the man who is credited with inventing the lightsaber. The documentary details the making of the universe of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, including the making of the iconic weapons from the film. Well, joining us now to discuss this exciting documentary, as well as the significance of May the 4th to Star Wars fans everywhere, is Mr. Roger Christian himself. Sir, welcome to Forum Daily.
Thank you. Very nice to be here.
So tell us a little bit more about what we can expect from your upcoming documentary, Galaxy Built on Hope.
With John Barry, the designer, I had to design and come up with a used universe for the first Star Wars. So everything, weapons, vehicles, robots, Tunisia being Tatooine, the entire thing with very little money. There was very little belief in the film at that time. We had a very tiny budget. So I was really in charge of bringing the whole kind of used universe to, and this has never been documented, all of the official ones, because John Barry sadly died very young. And David West Reynolds, who was ex-head of literature at Lucasfilm, forced me to write a book about it, because he said this is the legacy and no one knows any of these stories because they were right behind the scenes and no one's there to tell them. So I finally gave in, wrote the book, and then he pressured me to do this documentary, which has been 2.5 years making because COVID caused all sorts of disruptions to us. But finally, it's coming out now in May.
I'm sure Star Wars fans will definitely want to see how their world was created. Now, you are credited as the man who invented the iconic lightsaber. So tell us a little bit more about that and the other work you've done for Star Wars.
Yeah, that was obviously George created it I got the script, and there was this, we then called it a laser sword. That's what it was called. So very British. So I had to come up with it along with all the other props and everything, and we only had a few months to do the whole movie to get it ready. There was no time to make anything, design it, so I had to find found objects, and this one eluded me because I thought I'd been a great King Arthur fan all my life, and I thought this is going to be the icon of Star Wars. It's Excalibur for a science fiction movie. So I finally, in a camera shop, and I've got the original manager of the camera shop where I went in and said, have you got anything that I could look at that might be suitable for a weapon? And he showed me a box that was not been open for a long time underneath all these other camera boxes. And I pulled it out and there was a Graflex handle. And I just went, oh, I found the Holy Grail. Ran back to my office. I stuck T-strip that I got left over from making the Stormtroopers blasters. I'd broken down an old calculator that morning, and the bubble strip, which was used to magnify the numbers, I stuck that in the clip, so that changed that. And I made the lightsaber for, I don't know, $15 or something like that. And that's it. I showed George, he smiled, and that was the iconic weapon that it's become now. And it's really a symbol for Star Wars, Sword of Light. It brings, Star Wars is all about hope and light and compassion and forgiveness at the end of the day. And that's why it's connected to the world. And so there, it was kind of luck that I found it at the end of the day. I would have found something, but nothing as iconic as what this Graflex handle was.
Definitely. $15 well spent. Just about
yeah.
just about a minute left here, sir. But we've really seen the Star Wars franchise evolve over the years. We're seeing series, The Mandalorian on Disney Plus, and we're mentioning Obi-Wan is coming up as well. But from your perspective, how have you seen this franchise evolve over time?
Well, Star Wars is connected to the world. George gave the world something to believe in, that and the world needs it, and more every day now. And it's a perfect myth, what he created. Light triumphs over dark. And I think that element of everything has been preserved. We all like the first 6 because they were George's vision. And in every one, he pushed boundaries, not just CGI boundaries, but storytelling through CGI and things like that. I think that, they've done as much as they could with the next 3. And then what's interesting is The Mandalorian has brought back the fans in droves.
Lots to look forward to. All right, we'll be right back. Hungary's foreign minister says his country won't support a European Union proposal to ban Russian oil imports. That could derail the bloc's efforts to apply united pressure against Moscow over its war in Ukraine. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen's proposal must be unanimously approved to take effect. She wants EU member nations to phase out imports of crude oil within 6 months and refined products by the end of the year. Russia pounded railroad stations and other supply line points across the country after complaining that the West is stuffing Ukraine with weapons. South of our border, a draft Supreme Court opinion suggesting that the right to abortion will be overturned in the U.S. is highlighting the risk to Black and Hispanic women. Associated Press research shows that if the court allows states to ban abortions, minority women will bear the brunt of it. In conservative states that already limit access to abortions, Black and Hispanic women are far more likely than white women to have an abortion. That's why advocates say they will have the most to lose if abortion is outlawed in those states. Advocates also say those same women will likely have the hardest time traveling to terminate pregnancies or raising the children they would bear. Moving to China now, as Beijing is closing some 10% of the stations in its vast subway system as an additional measure against the spread of the coronavirus. The subway authority, in a brief message, said only that the closure of 40 mostly downtown stations is being taken as part of epidemic control measures. No date for resumption of service was given. Beijing has been on high alert for the spread of COVID-19, with restaurants and bars limited to takeout only, gyms closed, and classes suspended indefinitely. Residents are required to undergo 3 tests throughout the week. Authorities aim to detect and isolate cases without imposing the sort of sweeping lockdowns that were seen in Shanghai and elsewhere. The U.S. Federal Reserve is raising its benchmark short-term interest rate by a sizable 0.5 percentage point. This in a bid to curb the worst inflation in 40 years. The half-point hike in the Fed's key rate, its largest since 2000, raised it to a range of 0.75% to 1%. This is the highest point since the pandemic struck 2 years ago. The Fed will likely follow Wednesday's move with the fastest pace of hikes in 30 years. It also announced Wednesday that it will start reducing its $9 trillion balance sheet, which consists mainly of Treasury and mortgage bonds. Reducing the Fed's holdings will have the effect of further raising loan costs throughout the economy. The war in Ukraine is also affecting food security around the world. The UN says almost 200 million people in 53 countries don't have enough to eat each day. This is an increase of 40 million from a year ago. It is blaming what it calls a toxic triple combination of conflict, weather extremes, and the economic effects of the pandemic. And it says the situation is getting worse because Russia's invasion of Ukraine is cutting off supplies of wheat to African countries. Turning to billionaire Elon Musk's bid to buy Twitter now, He has told a British parliamentary committee scrutinizing draft online safety legislation that it's too soon for him to discuss his plans to buy Twitter and the changes that he's proposing. Parliament's Digital Committee wants Mr. Musk to talk about his intention to roll out verification for all users. This echoes its own recommendations to Prime Minister Boris Johnson's government. The online safety bill would give regulators the power to crack down on digital and social media companies. Meanwhile, another popular online networking platform has agreed to pay $1.8 million in back wages to hundreds of female workers. The career networking service LinkedIn, now owned by Microsoft, agreed to settle a pay discrimination complaint brought by U.S. labor investigators. It resolves allegations of systemic gender-based pay discrimination, in which women were paid less than men in comparable job roles. Well, during a month where food for bees is scarce, the No Mow May movement aims to give bees a little bit of help. This while also allowing you to delay the chore of mowing the lawn for an entire month. Bees pollinate 35% of the global food supply, but a quarter of native bee species in North America are at risk of extinction. No Mow May was first conceived in the UK and is now spreading throughout Canada and the United States. The Nature Conservancy of Canada encourages people to spread the word throughout their communities about how keeping your mower in the shed for the month can help bee populations and other wildlife. Some communities that adopt No Mow May also provide participants with free signs for their yards. All right, I'm Nima Rajan, and that'll do it for your look at national and international news for today. Remember, for more news on demand, you could always visit our website or follow us on social media. Take care, Canada. We'll see you next time.